To the new homeowners of Abaco, congratulations.
I am proud to say that this government, as a team, has done 40 homes in Pinecrest in New Providence. We should give it up for a government who's working for the people. 6 in Ocean Hole, Eleuthera. 10 in Central Pines. 2 in Spring City. Renaissance, we have 50 plus homes. San Salvador, you will hear about it, and it's going on right now. 18 homes, almost to be completed.
We are building a Bahamas where diligence and perseverance are rewarded. A Bahamas where, if you make the right choices and work hard, home ownership and upward mobility are within reach.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Office of the Prime Minister, our weekly press briefing. It's good to see all of you, as usual. We're going to get right to it this morning. We have an earlier start. We are pleased to have with us Senator Michael Halkitis, who is in transit to the Senate, so we're going to get things moving very quickly. He's, of course, here to update us and appraise us of developments linked to the government's recent execution of its reduction of VAT on groceries to 5%, what the implications of that are for consumers, for business persons, and for the economy. So without further ado, please welcome Senator Michael Halkitis.
Thank you so much. Good morning, all. Thank you for coming. I'll just be very, very brief, because I know we have individuals to talk about the very exciting Agri-Expo that's coming up and some other matters. But good morning to all. As Mrs. Adley said, April 1st, the reduction in the VAT on unprepared food came into effect. By all reports, the transition has been very smooth. We think that has been in large part because of the 3-month transition period given to business people in order to make the changes. And so, so far so good. We have had no complaints of any major disruption, and so it's in effect. And we're just very, very happy to be able to do this reform in keeping with our ongoing policy of reducing taxes that started from the outset with the reduction of VAT in January 1st, 2022, and removal of customs duties on a raft of items, including healthy food items, beginning in 2022 and is continuing until today. And so that continues. I'm sure the matter that's on the minds of all the reporters here are the recent tariffs that were almost universally imposed by President Trump on around the world. The Bahamas is the subject of what they call the baseline tariff, the 10%, that was issued to virtually, or imposed on virtually all countries around the globe. As you know, there are some that had significantly higher tariffs imposed upon them. We are adopting a wait-and-see attitude. Before we realize that things change very rapidly, so something that might be on today could be off later on today. And so our attitude is to adopt a wait-and-see attitude to see how this develops. And again, working in consultation with our partners in CARICOM for any possible response. As you know, we have been pursuing a trade diversification policy as part of our efforts to reduce the cost of living in the country, finding ways to source goods from other countries without having to go through the middle person. Having said that, you know, the United States is our major trading partner. They will remain our major trading partner. But we don't see an immediate major impact. What it is 10% tax being put on goods being imported into the United States at the baseline for those countries at the 10%. And I think the our information, the most that would be an export to the U.S. is seafood and I think salt. Not many exports at all. So we will, continue to monitor the situation. Our greater concern from a government perspective is the impact of this trade war on the global economy. Because you might have heard, or you would see that, in some countries the tariffs are significantly higher, up to 40+% on other countries. And so how does that impact global trade, global economy, economic growth globally, and then how does that trickle down to us? That is what is foremost on our minds. And so we're hopeful that an all-out trade war leading to recession and economic slowdown can be avoided. So again, we continue to monitor, and I'm sure when the individuals who are here to talk about the agribusiness, that would help us to, discuss the importance of things like food security and economic diversification. So having said that, I'll take any questions you might have on either one of those topics.
How could this affect our tourism industry? Good morning, Minister. Considering this will slow the economy, economic growth, which means tourists may decide to...
I don't look at this particular 10% thing in particular.
No,
Yeah, but as you said, yeah, so not that, but again, if, for example, economists are predicting that, should you have a trade war is not good for economies. It makes things more expensive, less money to spend, possibly less trade, leading to economic slowdown, and then so the trickle down. So for example, if there's a severe economic slowdown in the US, it would impact our tourism industry, our industries on the whole. And so, that is, like I said, I'm not so much concerned about, 10% on exports. I'm more concerned about, this whole thing leading to an economic slowdown. And then, of course, it would impact our economies. And that's why I said I'm hopeful that, those big, economies can work it out and, avoid an all-out trade war. Because, now you hear economists talking about the possibility of recession in the U.S. I think someone said there's about a 40% chance of recession. How long that is, if it happens, how deep it is, it can impact everybody around the world. So that would be the impact, leading to an economic slowdown in the U.S. People lose jobs, people have less money to spend, vacations are discretionary. And so, that is the thing that we're looking at. What is the overall fallout on the economy, on the U.S. economy, and then that impacts us, and that's why we observe it. There's not much we can do in terms of an impact U.S. policy, but we can just sort of, as a government, try and get ourselves as financially in good shape as we can. And again, I say as well, proximity serves us. So, if there's recession in the U.S., perhaps the person who would have taken a vacation in Europe or in the Far East or down there in Bali and those places, maybe they'll stay closer and come to the Bahamas. So we remain optimistic, but it's something that's concerning, and we have to continue to watch.
I see in the Tribune, someone saying that their bigger concern is the fees on Chinese-made ships. And I know CARICOM was represented at the trade representatives meeting. What is that looking like? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything different, and I'll say again, quite frankly, it is a concern, because of the predominance of Chinese-made ships throughout the world. I mean, over the years, they've become a major player in marine transport, and so, you have this. I don't know. The way I understood it, it was a draft policy. So I don't know, a draft policy, how far along to fruition that is. It's concerning because you've had people, flock to the U.S. to, try and get an understanding of it and give their point of view in trying to influence the policy. Of course, we would be impacted with that, and that's another one of those things where, you have the U.S. has a beef with China about who dominates shipping trade, but, everybody else feels the collateral damage. That would be a concern. And, that is another thing we we're studying and to see what the potential is and, how we can avoid it. Yeah, but that is a huge concern as well.
Senator, good morning. What you call this, I guess, the unpredictability of these circumstances. Should consumers then brace themselves for a shorter shelf life of this government's VAT relief plan?
No. I'll say it again, and I don't know, let me just say this. In March of 2021, the Progressive Liberal Party published an economic plan. One of the first things in that economic plan was we were going to reduce VAT from 12% to 10%. People said, "Oh, it's a lie. It's election ploy. You're trying to get elected." When we came in, one of the first orders of business was January 1st, came in September 16th, 2021. January 1st, 2022, VAT is reduced from 12% to 10%. Later, we said we're going to do VAT on food, all food, not just bread basket items, all food, 72 pages worth of food. And they said, well, it's an April Fool's joke because it's not coming into effect now, it's coming into effect April 1st. Well, the reason it came into effect April 1st was to give people, business people, enough time to adjust. And then we get this thing, oh, they only dropped that because they're going to put something else. Well, we're not going to put something else. There's no shelf life. This is a permanent reduction. There's no new taxes coming in the budget to replace this. We were able to quantify what it is, $30 million. We can make it up by improvements in other areas that we've seen, and so we can withstand it. And we believe that, we know it's $30 million less that the government is collecting, but $30 million that remains in the pockets of consumers and business people that they can then use. And so please, I'll say once again, this is not a temporary fix. There's no other shoe left to drop about some other increase. This was very deliberate. We did it after 3 years because we wanted to make sure that we could withstand what was foregone. So this is permanent, and there's no shoe left to drop. There's nothing coming on the flip side as much as some commentators, not you, but some commentators might wish to convince people. No, the shelf life is there. When we talk about being able to look and see the possibility of something like an economic slowdown because of a trade war, the worst thing you can do, or one of the worst things you can do, is start to act as if you're already in a recession, because then it becomes a full self-fulfilling prophecy. You're cautious, but you have to go on continuing to do business. And what that means is those segments of our economy that drive us, we have to continue to promote them, say why it's good to do business in the Bahamas, why it's good to come to the Bahamas. We are aware of these possibilities, but we don't panic, because then, that's self-defeating.
So would you be able to say that the main strategy during the wait-and-see phase is just to continue to promote the Bahamas? Is the government strategizing in any other way?
We, like I said, in terms of the 10%, the sort of redeeming quality of the 10% is it's on everybody. It's not on us and somebody else is free, and so we are at a disadvantage. So, everybody is facing the same thing. But so we'll consult with our CARICOM partners to see, what approach we take in terms of approaching the administration to talk about it, all right, and influence the policy. The part of the, being sort of prepared for any sort of development is things like making sure we continue with our fiscal discipline in terms of the finances of the country, continue to do things like pursue diversification where we can, which I'm going to get off the stage now so that the people from, not the people, the professionals from agriculture can come and talk to you about the Agribusiness Expo. That's another thing that we need to continue to do. We need to continue to pursue our trade diversification, a big part of which is cutting out the middle person. So, for example, Senator Griffin is doing a lot of work on this with our trade diversification committee. So you have, for example, goods that are produced in Central South America and the Caribbean, the same can of something or bottle of something that we then send to the US and bring back. How do we get it directly here so we can cut out some of that cost, the exact same thing. And so those things that incrementally, I mean, little bit by little bit, contributes to us, lowering the cost of these things. Again, we're not going to not be the major trading partner of the US. That will continue. But within that, we have to continue to do business and pursue those initiatives. And when I said, and market ourselves in terms of, listen, we're a tourist destination, that's the economy, keep doing the things that has enabled us to recover.
Before you go, the VAT change, I got one complaint yesterday from a business saying that the two different values of VAT is a bit of a burden on them. Is it different for smaller businesses than
Most smaller businesses don't like, if you're under the threshold, you don't register anyhow, so you don't charge VAT. All right, and then there's provisions in the law for those smaller businesses to just pay a percentage. So, when we implemented it, there were mechanisms in there for the smaller business, for the administrative burden to be easier. But I'll say, by and large, 99.99%, we haven't had any complaints. And that is the reason why we did the 3-month adjustment period, all right? And so by and large, we just want to thank the members of the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, for their cooperation and the consultations and the discussions before it came into place. And, by and large, I checked again, no complaints, all right? So by and large, smooth sailing. You had one more question? I'll take one more before I got to go.
Are you able to provide a quick update on the progress, if anything's being made with the Maritime Revenue Enforcement Task Force?
They continue to work. They're moving from island to island. We think that's a huge opportunity. Being spread out, a lot of times you don't have the proper handle that you should have in terms of a revenue perspective on what is going on in these islands. So, for example, someone might, just as an example, they built a marina, and over the years they expanded it. Okay, you expand it, that means more revenue is due to the government for the space that you're taking up. And so what they're doing is they continue to move around, doing compliance and checking. Not implementing anything new, but making sure people are operating within the confines of the law. It's working very well. We think it's a huge opportunity. Our marine environment is one of our greatest assets, and people who, for want of a better word, exploit meaning they come, they enjoy it, they might fish, they might dive and do all of these things. We have to make sure that the people of the Bahamas is getting a return on that activity through the proper fees, et cetera, being collected, so that we can do things like protection and conservation, et cetera. So they continue to work. They're doing a fantastic job, led by Commander Boleg. All right, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Halkitis. Right now, we're going to talk about another of the government's recent legislative incentives, which has to do with monitoring, controlling the carbon emissions that are generated by through the process of energy generation in the country. Here to talk about that, Larissa Cartwright, who is the registrar with the National Emissions Registry, on that legislation and its implications.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. Good morning, members of the press, and good morning, Bahamas. So last week, the Prime Minister would have tabled in Parliament the Emissions Reductions Initiatives and Incentives Regulations. These regulations are the first set of regulations to be enacted under the Climate Change and Carbon Markets Initiative Act, which was passed in 2022. So essentially, these regulations seek to establish a partnership between the government and private entities to assist the country in meeting its emissions reduction goals. We know that the Bahamas would have declared on an international stage that it will reduce its emissions by 30% by the year 2030 and increase its renewable energy in the energy matrix by 30% by the year 2030. And so these regulations seek to assist us to keep a target, keep a good track of our efforts at a national level. And so what does this partnership mean? It means three specific things. The first thing, the government has created a platform for a continuous dialogue between its partners, between its stakeholders. When the National Emissions Registry first began its stakeholder engagement process, we would have quite frankly asked our partners, what can the government do to assist you in transitioning to cleaner and more affordable sources of energy? Our stakeholders quite frankly said to us, listen, there's a very high capital cost in this effort to transition, particularly for larger entities like hotels. Their ability to transition to renewable energy may not be as easy as the common person or as smaller entities may find it. And that even includes the ability to retrofit for the use of energy efficiency appliances. And so with these regulations, the government wants to respond to its partners and stakeholders in a very meaningful way. After hearing from our stakeholders, we know that the common goal here is to reduce the cost of operation through lowering energy bills, as well as to reduce costs of living through decreased electricity bills. And certainly the utilization of renewable energy and energy efficiency appliances would assist all in these efforts. The government has also built a national emissions registry, which is an electronic database that serves to house emissions-related data, the incentives that the government seeks to implement, and other initiatives to, again, help the Bahamas track its efforts in reducing its emissions as well as increasing sustainable energy sources. We know that data helps us to understand the needs of various sectors and the general public and translate those needs into financial and technical assistance. For instance, there are developed countries, that are donors to smaller countries like the Bahamas, recognizing that we aren't the cause of climate change, but we seek to suffer the most. And so there's an ability for us to express our needs with use of evidence. Data helps us to give the evidence that states, hey, we're making progress in certain areas, but there may be challenges for us in certain sectors in transitioning, and so here's where you can help us. So when we talk about emissions in the grand scheme of things, everyone knows that the Bahamas is not a major contributor of global emissions. However, we also know that we are very heavy importers, and the world begins to utilize more efficient, smarter technologies that will help them in their cost savings. We need to be moving along with that train. And so we need to see ourselves transitioning as the world is transitioning. It's really just like the need to update your TVs, update your phones. We know that after a while, obsolete technology is real. We don't want to be left holding the bag of technologies that are no longer on the market, no longer being produced. And so we need to be ahead of that transition. We also do know that greater cost savings can be realized with the use of sustainable technologies such as energy efficiency appliances and renewable energy resources. This is why the first proposed government initiative under the regulations will focus on providing incentives for energy efficiency cooling appliances right in time for the summer period when you'll be using these appliances the most. And so this incentive will be beneficial to both retailers, large stores, small stores, as well as homeowners, so everyone will be able to benefit from the use of this incentive. So we're asking the public to stay tuned as we make further announcements further to the date of these incentives. However, we want to emphasize that our very next step will be focusing on the continued collection of data that will be housed within the National Emissions Registry. So again, it will help us track our progress, making progress on our goals. And through this exercise, we will ask stakeholders who we would have engaged with initially to submit information to the registry through the form of questionnaires, short questionnaires that can help us keep track. Before I close, I would like to say a special thank you to stakeholders from all the various sectors whom we would have engaged with perhaps more than a year ago, including hotels, energy providers, transportation, members of the transportation sectors, those in the construction sectors, just to name a few, who have taken time to meet with us and provide feedback on these regulations and the emissions registry. Your input and suggestions to this process was indeed invaluable, and we look forward to continuing the good work together. Thank you. Any questions?
Mrs. Cartwright, how
Sure.
many businesses are expected to benefit from this initiative?
Well, it all depends on who signs up, and so it's free for all. Once you sign up within the National Emissions Registry, you recognize that, hey, you can benefit from the use of incentives for energy efficiency appliances or renewable energies, then you benefit. So it's not limited.
Do you have a goal of how many businesses you would like to see sign up?
Really, I mean, I would like to see everybody benefit from the incentive. So we know that there are larger entities that really could use the incentive to retrofit their companies. So we would hope that they would be very proactive in signing up in response to the government's claim that we will assist all entities.
During consultation with those various businesses and the, I guess, industries, what major concern did they express during their feedback?
High upfront costs. So it's easier for you as an individual to get solar panels for your home, but if you're operating a hotel that has many buildings, it's very hard for you to say make that transition to not depend on fossil fuels, but depend on renewable energies. And sometimes there's a level of uncertainty. So we're most comfortable, okay, turn this on, the fuel, we have the BPL will support our energy, but when you're using new technologies, there's still some hesitancies, but we're seeing a greater uptake with the use of renewable energy, so hopefully that will translate into more and more persons becoming comfortable with the technology.
How are you gathering emissions data, and is it also coming from, let's say, shipping lanes, ships that pass through the Bahamas, airlines that fly over the Bahamas, that kind of thing, cruise lines, that kind of thing?
So right now we're kind of focusing on domestic entities mainly. So we already know who are our larger emitters, right? And so we would have engaged with these individuals. We would have identified that there will be some questions that you'll need to provide us on an annual basis through a short questionnaire. And so we want to take it at a tier level. This is new for Bahamians, but we know that for instance, the transportation sector, your airlines, your shipping lanes, they also contribute to emissions, and so eventually we'll continue our efforts in transitioning to more and more onboarding of more entities.
And as we talk about emissions, the Bahamas, I think, one of 7 countries ranked in terms of cleanest air globally, so this is a step in the right direction.
Definitely. So the Bahamas is not a major emitter of global emissions, and so we're not very concerned about what we are doing in terms of emitting at an industrial level, right? However, we know that it's very important for us to ensure that our environment stays pristine for the well-being of the environment itself, those biological resources that depend on it, as well as our well-being. But the goal of these initiatives and incentives truly is trying to allow Bahamians to experience greater cost savings. So if you utilize energy efficiency technologies in the long term, we know that your light bill will decrease. And so efforts like that is what we're really trying to target with the regulations. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. All righty.
Thank you, Mrs. Cartwright. I'd now like to welcome Charles Hamilton, who is also with the Climate Change Office, who is soliciting a representative today. I'll let him explain that.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. And thank you, Bahamas. Good morning, everyone. For the 4th year in a row, applications are open for the Bahamas Youth Climate Change Ambassador Program. So this program, led by the Climate Change and Environmental Advisory Unit in the Office of the Prime Minister, provides opportunities for 2 young people, 1 male and 1 female, ages 18 to 25, to create a platform to advocate for climate action and represent the voices of Bahamian youth at the national and international levels. The role of the climate change ambassador is a dynamic one, and we've certainly seen such great work that our climate youth ambassadors have been doing, Wanisha Saunders and Javon, as they've been advocating for our country and showing that, young people have a voice. They're doing great work. And so ambassadors, they really, really will end up leading community and outreach activities within the country. They represent our country at global meetings such as COP and our climate weeks. They co-chair the Bahamas Youth Climate Change Conference, which will happen this July 3rd through 4th. So we will be talking a bit more about that in the future, because in this world where we see multilateralism and diplomacy can often be seen as a difficult thing, we need to be able to prepare our young people to be able to stand up and understand the language and advocate for our country. And so, if you are a young person, if you know someone who is a young person, who is passionate, who wants to be able to be the change we want to see, who really has ideas of how we can change and advance climate action in the country, we tell them, apply today. This application has been open from March and will close the 22nd of April. And so that means, less than 20 days from now, Bahamians, to you who are here online, maybe you're in high school, maybe you are in university. I know that Easter break is coming up. I know exams are coming up, but you will not regret this opportunity to be able to represent your country and to be able to provide change in this world. And so please apply. I think the application, there we go. It's right back here. So take the QR code scan. You can go on our social media pages, the Climate Change and Environmental Advisory Unit, or CCEAU on Instagram, and you will find the application link there. Please apply, contact our office, and we can provide you with more information. Any questions?
You mentioned that the application has been open since March?
Correct.
So can you say how the response has been so far?
The response has not been as robust as we've wanted it to be, and so we are trying to encourage as many persons to apply. We know that sometimes Bahamians, we wait until the last minute to apply because we're trying to pull everything together, but I'm encouraging persons, don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait until April 22nd comes, your computer crashes, the internet goes down, you end up losing any information on your computer. Apply now. And I'm encouraging every single person here in the press room as well, please advocate, advertise, encourage persons in the room. I've been so inspired by the young persons who have been bringing forward their ideas, and honestly, I'm looking forward to them stepping into the arena and them stepping here at this lectern to be able to speak to the Bahamian people on how we will advance climate action. Any other questions?
Are there any academic requirements for the persons who are applying?
No academic requirements, because climate change cuts across all sectors. So whether you are in the environmental field, or perhaps you're in engineering, or perhaps you're a lawyer, or perhaps you are in sustainability, people believe that climate change has to be boxed into, do I work in the environment? No. I can identify every single sector, and you can find a climate-related rationale behind it. Even there was in the press, climate and climate change reporting is important to ensuring that we cut through the news of what's happening with climate change and we report what's actually real, what is actually important for our country, and ensuring that small island developing states and those who live in our countries can understand it. So no academic requirements, just passion, you're ready to work, and you're within the age group, and you have ideas that can be implemented. Okay. Apply today, Bahamas. April 22nd is the deadline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you.
Yes, apply today. That's important. And you get that trip to, where is it this year? Brazil. For the successful climate change ambassador. All right. All right. Now we want to shift gears. We're going to talk about the Agri Expo 2025, and I had such a good time at the event last year, I think. Yeah, last year. Great event there on Gladstone Road. We welcome now Jacqueline Fox-DeVoe to tell us what to expect this year.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure, I'm most elated to be able to stand here to tell you, the Bahamian public, about what is happening under the great leadership of Minister Jomo Campbell, our Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources. This weekend, we are about to celebrate one of the premier agricultural events known as Agri-Expo 2025, which is scheduled to be held April 4th through 6th at the Gladstone Road Agricultural Site under the theme, Food Security is our priority. Food security is our priority. It's everybody's priority. And the ministry, along with many of its other initiatives, is using this forum to promote food security, which is a part of the government's blueprint for change. It is also in keeping with world standards to ensure that all of the population, including our population, have access to quality food. So, like I mentioned, food security is our priority. It's everybody's priority. It is my priority, it is your priority, to ensure that you do something about providing your families and yourselves with fresh food. And as you are aware, the Bahamas imports nearly 90% of its food, and this accounts to about 1 billion, approximately 1 billion. And so with this initiative, to show you how serious we are about promoting food security, we are embarking on a number of initiatives to inspire, to educate, and to empower Bahamians. And by doing so, we have 18 lecture series and workshops scheduled for this weekend. So you can look at our Facebook page to see which activity, which lecture, which workshop applies to you. For example, if you are interested in learning how to grow and harvest sweet potatoes, we have a 2-hour workshop scheduled on Saturday. If you are interested in hydroponic farming, we have a workshop for you. If you are interested in aquaculture, we have a workshop for you. If you are interested in learning how to make jams and jellies, boil tomatoes, make yogurt, manufacture yogurt, bread making, pastry making, we have it for you. There's something for everyone. There will be this event is free, so it's free of charge, and it's a holistic approach that we are embarking upon. The kids can come, the senior citizens can come. We have cultural entertainment on Fridays and Saturdays. On Sunday, we have a gospel fest. So I would want to encourage you to bring your family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We have interactive backyard gardening, farming going on. If you want to learn how to do backyard gardening, we have a lecturer who would show you how to do just that. You would learn how to be creative. You don't need much land space. Some farmers who have limited space, they use tires and they put the soil in and they grow their veggies. So you don't need a big landmass. We just want to encourage people. We want to inspire you. A little goes a long way. We have a culinary showdown schedule all Friday and Saturday. We have the Battle of the Chefs. Who will carry this crown? Last year, Cat Island won. So we want to see who will win this year's event with the Battle of the Chefs. We would also be having a taste of the islands. We have 5 islands coming in this year: Grand Bahama, Abaco, Andros, Naughty Lutra, Exuma, Cat Island. So we are just so excited. We want you to know that it is something for you, not only to just have fun. You can eat the many Bahamian dishes. There's going to be crab soup, crab and dough, count salad, count fritters, but that is all good and well, but at the end of the day, everybody will be inspired, would leave that. It is our vision that everybody who enters those grounds would leave that site more inspired to do more farming, would be more inspired to help those who are farming, and would be inspired to just promote food security at all levels. Thank you. It's at the Gladstone Road site, Gladstone Road. You can't miss it. Once you enter from Carmichael, you would see the signs, and it'll be on the left.
And this is starting
It's starting tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yes. Oh yes, we have. In fact, this year we're gonna have a wider selection of animals. We're gonna have ducks. We're gonna have baby chicks. We're gonna have pigs. We're gonna have goats. We're gonna have chickens. It's gonna be really fun. Yes.
So this is from Friday to Sunday?
Friday to Sunday. So if you miss Friday, you can come on Saturday. If you miss Saturday, you can definitely come on Sunday. And last year, it was such a great interest among the public that the vendors were actually running out of food. So this year, we increased our food vendors. We had to do so because we realized last year the food was just running out. That's how many persons were, thousands of Bahamians, night after night. So we expect a great crowd. We expect the Bahamian people to come out and to support their own. Let's support our local farmers. Let's reduce the food import bill. Let's help, because most of our food is imported, from United States. So let's promote supporting our very own. Bahamians need to support their local farmers. Amen? Thank you so much. And see you there, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
You can also come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's no problem with that. All right, well, that brings our press briefing to a close. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.